Hello, my name is Mariam Sami, and this is a tutorial video on the concepts of fraction and division. Please have a piece of blank paper or graph paper available along with a pencil, eraser, and a ruler. Bear in mind that any time throughout this video you may pause to allow yourself time to think. For today's lesson, I have chosen a math problem from www.wouldyourather.com. Would you rather evenly split the remaining brownies in scenario A or scenario B? Before we get started to solve this problem, remember that in approaching math problems, you should always read the questions carefully and underline the important information. You need to think about what math concepts could be related to your problem. Lastly, remind yourself of what you already know about those concepts, and always start with something you know and then gradually build upon it. For today's lesson, I'm also using one of the Making Thinking Visible routines, See, Think, Wonder. Let's get started. Now look at this picture carefully, pause the video, and write down all what you see. What are you seeing? You might respond that you will see two different plates, plate A and plate B, but they both have the same size. More than half of the brownies in two plates are eaten. In plate A, the brownie pieces are divided in 10 equal parts, whereas in plate B, they are divided into 14 equal parts. The remaining brownies in plate A is 4 parts, and in plate B are 6 parts. So what are you thinking now? You might say, I think that since the brownies in plate A are divided in 10 equal parts, whereas in plate B that are divided into 14 equal parts, the brownie parts in plate B are smaller than the brownie parts in plate A. You might also think that the leftover brownies in plate B are slightly more than the leftover brownies in plate A. If you write this in math language, this would be brownie pieces in plate A bigger than the brownie pieces in plate B, and leftover brownie in plate B bigger than the leftover brownie in plate A. So what are you wondering now? You're wondering which plate will give us more brownie per person. Since in plate A, the leftover brownie is divided among 5 people, and in plate B, the leftover is divided among 6 people, you might conclude that the share of brownies for each person in plate A would be bigger. You're right. So, in response to would you rather evenly split the remaining brownies in scenario A with 5 people or in scenario B with 6 people, your answer would be, I would rather to have a piece of the leftover brownie from plate A, simply because that would be a larger piece than plate B. Now that you have responded to the first question, let's extend your thinking. There are 2 additional questions about this picture that I would like you to think about. What is the difference between the amount of leftover brownies in these 2 plates? And what is each person's share of brownies from each of these 2 plates? Pause the video and think about each of these 2 questions. Let's start with the first one. How much is the leftover piece in plate B bigger than the leftover piece in plate A? Let's look at the picture again. Remember the leftover pieces in each plate is as following: 4/10 in plate A, and 6/14 in plate B. We can simplify these two fractions as the followings. 4/10 equals to 2/5 by dividing both the numerator and the denominator by 2, and 6/14 equals to 3/7, the same way dividing both the numerator and the denominator by 2. So, how much is the leftover piece in plate B bigger than the leftover piece in plate A? Or, what is the answer to 3/7 minus 2/5? Please pause the video and think about your response. You know, to add, subtract, and compare fractions, they need to have a common denominator, meaning their fractional parts must be of the same size. Therefore, before subtracting 2/5 from 3/7, you need to find a common denominator for these two fractions. What is the least common multiple for 5 and 7? The least common multiple for 7 and 5 is 35. Now think about this subtraction. 3/7 minus 2/5. Can you rewrite these fractions by using the common multiple of 35 as a common denominator? Please pause and find out your answer. The answer to this subtraction is 3/7 minus 2/5, or the equivalent fraction of these two fractions, 15/35 minus 14/35 is 1/35. So the leftover brownies in plate B is 1/35 bigger than the leftover brownies in plate A. Now the second question that I'm posing is, what is each person's share of brownies from each of these two plates? Remember that the leftover pieces in each plate are as follows. 4/10 that needs to be divided among 5 people, and 6/14 that needs to be divided among 6 people. Simplifying the fractions will give us 2/5 divided by 5 and 3/7 divided by 6. Please pause the video and try to find out how you would divide 2/5 by 5 and 3/7 by 6. In these diagrams, as a bar model, you will see that 4/10, or the equivalent fraction of 2/5, needs to be divided by 5, and 6/14 and its equivalent fraction of 3/7 needs to be divided by 6. This is done for plate A and for plate B. What is the response? Please pause, look at the pictures, and try to find out what would be the share of each person for each plate by looking at these two diagrams. 2/5 divided by 5 is 2/25. So the share of the persons for the remainder of the brownie for plate A would be 2/25 of the whole plate. And for plate B would be 1/42 of the whole plate. After learning about dividing fractions, you can also learn a shortcut in how to divide fractions by a whole number or by another fractions. To divide fractions, you can multiply the first fraction by the reciprocal of the second fraction, or here as a whole number. So 2/5 and the reciprocal of 5 is 1/5 or 1/5. The reciprocal of 6 is 1/6 or 1/6. So 2/5 divided by 5 is exactly as 2/5 times 1/5, which is 2/25. And 3/7 divided by 6 is a 3/7 multiplied by 1/6, which is 3/42. Now that you understand how to divide fractions by whole numbers and other fractions, you learned a shortcut, you can find the answers to the following questions. Please pause the video to think about your responses. After you've finished, you can move on to check your answers. Thanks for watching this video. To review and practice more on dividing fraction skills, please go to the following link at Khan Academy.